Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. Hayya alal salat. Hayya alal salat. Hayya alal falah. Hayya alal falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa khalaqa insana fi ahsani taqweem. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Dear brothers and sisters, of course we seek refuge in Allah from the accursed Satan and the accursed one. And we begin with Allah's name, the beneficent, the most merciful. And of course, He, Allah, has created man in the best of molds and makes. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen. Of course, we have to give praise and thanks to Allah, who is absolutely the Lord of all systems of knowledge. And we bear witness that there is no God but Allah without associate or partner. And we bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his last messenger and prophet among us. Of course, we extend upon all of the family, the companions, and the ummah of Muhammad our peace and our blessings. And we ask that Allah continue to bless the ummah of Muhammad. Ameen. Greet you once again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Dear Muslims, of course, we are blessed, alhamdulillah, to be present on the best of days. We that are Muslims, as we are growing and understanding, or we have already come to that understanding, we know that the JUMMAH, the JUMMAH, the day of JUMMAH, is the best of days that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Most High has given to us. We had just a few days ago celebrated the greater Eid of Eid Adha, and before that, a few months ago, we had the blessed Eid al-Fitr coming out of Ramadan. And from these two great festivals or celebrations, you see the Muslims are very joyous and happy and together. But Allah has given us a recurring Eid each and every Friday. And we should celebrate the fact that we have been blessed to see another JUMMAH. Well, certainly there are many believers, blessed believers throughout the world that may have prayed their last JUMMAH, and did not see another JUMMAH. And we ask that Allah be pleased with them. There are those that may have had the desire just yesterday to say, inshallah, they will make the JUMMAH, but Allah may have taken them in the night. And we ask that Allah be pleased with them. What I'm really saying is that sometimes we can become ritualistic in our practice. And we have to be mindful that what Allah has given to us is a blessing at every turn. And whenever we're blessed to be present on Yom JUMMAH, it certainly is a blessing. So I'm very grateful and thankful to Allah. I want to thank Sister Lisa Islam for inviting me to be the guest khatib today. I'm very humbled to stand before the believers, and I ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept what we have to say this afternoon, inshallah. dear Muslims, we have to think about the time and where we are and what is going on in the world, what is going on around us. Because sometimes we can become remote from society. We can become disconnected from society, even though we find ourselves operating in it every day. So much so, if you've ever really taken a good look at how you travel, we pretty much travel the same routes every day. Unless something requires a change, we take the same way home. So much so that if you wanted to take a different route, you don't notice it until you've already gone down that same route and said, man, I thought I was going to take a different turn this day to go home. Meaning, we can get comfortable in what we're doing and then lose sight of what's going on around us. So we praise Allah, and we can never praise Allah enough, because there are those that would like to call us as Muslims fanatics. They're too much. It's an insult for someone to say that we're too much into God. That you would take 5 times out the day as mandatory, regulated prayers and stop doing what we're doing and say, I'm going to make my salah. I'm going to give praise and worship to Allah. Then recognizing that after the 5, the world is so conflicted and crazy, I need more. I'm going to make sunnah prayers. I'm going to make extra prayers. But Allah is so merciful that whenever a believer bows in sujood, it is the most humbling position to be in. So let us be mindful that what we do and what we've come to learn is not ritual, but it is absolutely our salvation every single time. Alhamdulillah. In the Quran, Allah mentions these attributes, his characteristics, and as we look at them, Allah arranged them in the Quran in pairs. In pairs. And so we see most often recited, or Rahman Rahim, they come together. Because both of them, yes, imply compassion or mercy. However, they have different aspects of how it operates in our best interest coming from Allah, since He is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. And so as we see these pairs, we are learning that He never gives us a characteristic or a tenet or principle of faith without immediately following it up with a demand for action. What is this to teach us? The revelation of the Quran to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a miracle to the world. They would tell us that the miracle of Jesus walking on water was a great miracle, but it's not as great as the revelation of the Quran. Why do we say this? Are we saying this to put down maybe what we've learned in other aspects of religion? No. The reality is that many of the previous revelations that were given through prophets, may peace and blessings of Allah be upon them all, was specifically for those people. And many of them were told, do not spread this outside of yourself. And as Muslims, we make the mistake that we see Christians make, sometimes in ignorance, like this, that the words of Jesus in the Bible are just for Christians. It's for the Christians. And if you don't become a Christian, then you can't benefit from the words of Jesus. Meaning, the Bible is a Christian's book. It's ours. It's specifically ours. Jews would say that the Torah is their book. And it is. And they would say it's just for us. It was never meant to be spread to other people. It was for Bnei Israel. It was for us, the children of Israel, as they see it. But the Quran was given to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not just for Muslims, but for the whole of humanity. And so when we recognize that what we have in our possession in Kitabu Allah, the book of Allah, it is so powerful that it has contained in it every answer for the ills of humanity. But we have taken the position of others and we say that it's our book, and it is, but it's not our book to hide it, to sit it over here and only have it among ourselves. It is that which is to be shared as a light of guidance to a world that is steeped in great, great darkness. So, dear Muslims, I just wanted to share a few points on when we read in the Quran, Allah is with those who are steadfast. Allah loves those who are steadfast. Allah is with those who believe in the unseen, like, and are steadfast. So not only are we instructed to believe in the unseen, because unseen doesn't mean unreal. Because we can get spooky sometimes when it's unseen. It doesn't really exist. Allah is very clear that what He has revealed, He may not give us the meaning or the understanding of it right away. And there are things contained in the Quran that He only knows what it means. But He is with those who are steadfast. What does it mean to be steadfast? That means that we must be those who, if pinned in on all sides, do not reject faith or come away from our iman of that which we believe in. We will not be those who become apostates because we're under tremendous trial. When the trials of the life and the trials and the rigors of life, many of them are designed by Allah to bring out of us things that we didn't know about ourselves, but also designed that we may have greater iman. So who are we to think that Allah cannot try us? You see, you talk to some of our fellow brothers and sisters. We go to the masjid or to the mosque, or we work with a fellow believer, and you go to them one day and they don't look quite upbeat. You say, Assalamu alaikum. How are you? What's going on? You okay? Man, I don't know what's going on. I mean, it's rough. It's rough out here. Give me some guidance. And what they're looking for you to do is recite so many ayat of the Quran, and all you have to simply say is seek refuge in Allah. And have you ever noticed when you give the short, concise guidance, the believer is looking at you like you crazy? Like, but did you just hear what I just said? Do you know what I'm going through? Yeah, I know what you're going through. I may not have gone through that same thing, but I've gone through what I've gone through, and I understand what it feels like to be pinned in on all sides. Seek refuge in Allah. Because it is the remembrance of Allah that is the greatest of all forces. So when we look at the attributes of Allah, He's Al-Mateen. He is the firm. So when we're being asked to be steadfast in our Islam, we're being asked to be firm in our Islam. Not weak, but firm is not doing harm to people unjustly. Being firm is not murdering, causing bloodshed in the name of Allah and in the name of His Prophet. And that's not what this Islam is about. Islam is a religion of peace. But to be firm is to be firm in my iman, in my resolve, that regardless as to what happens to me, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. In some of the stories of the companions, may Allah's mercy be upon them, we find that the Muslims were so firm in their iman, in their faith, that even on their deathbed, you could look in their faces sometimes and see, but they're under so much pain. They can't utter La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. They can't form it. But the beauty of the religion is you could see it in the face, and we can recite it for them, and they confirm with a gesture, because one that knows that death is on them as a believer, they only want to die in a state of belief. So even when they can't utter it, they gesture it. And the Lord is in their face, even in the moment of death. This is what we have been invited to in this beautiful religion of Islam. But we're watching Muslims now, they're not steadfast. Running from the faith. Running from the Iman to the degree that we'll change our names from a Muslim name to an English name, when many of us was happy to get out of the English name and accept a good Muslim name. One of the things that we learned as our experience as black people in America is we could never wipe this off. So no matter what religion we were under, it didn't matter, because the shaitan and his imps, they would do injustice and mistreat us, as we're seeing in the news every single day. And it had nothing to do with what religion we profess. It had nothing to do with it. They say, well, you're black, abuse them. Black, injustice. Deny this one, rights. So when we became Muslims, and we began to stand firm, now we were disliked because we were black, and we were saying that we were a Muslim. Because in being a Muslim, not going to be as passive as we were under our misunderstanding of the teachings of Jesus. What does that tell us? To our immigrant brothers and sisters, nothing to be afraid of. You have an example right before you among a people who have always had to stand firm by being pinned in on all sides. But Allah blesses us to make it through every trial, every tribulation, and we are here. So Allah loves those who are steadfast. So if I'm not firm in my faith, does Allah love me? He may, but he may love me more if I'm steadfast. See? So the Prophet, peace and prayers be upon him, is our greatest example of how to remain steadfast up against all odds. But the Prophet, peace be on him, was a human being. It didn't mean that he didn't have moments of, man, what is it going to take? Or the anxiety of getting this job done. But the Prophet is the best example, because in the midst of all of that, he would seek refuge in Allah. He was not the type that wanted to make it seem as if he knew it all, but he knew who he was serving was in fact Allah, the best knower. So when he was questioned on certain things that he didn't know the answer to, his noble character is something that we should follow when we are in learning and acquiring knowledge, that if we don't know a thing, just tell the brother or sister, I don't know. But I can go what? Find out. Well, I think I know somebody that may know, and we can ask them. So the Holy Prophet, peace and prayers be upon him, was an example for us, that even in the midst of great trial, the companions or the Sahabas would question him. And if he didn't know, he would wait on Allah. Sometimes they would push him because they couldn't handle the situation, and they would suggest to him, Rasulullah, we got to do this, we got to do that. And there were instances where he knew that he had to wait on Allah. But you know the blessing in that, dear brothers and sisters? Though the Prophet ﷺ was beloved of Allah, he also heard the prayers of those that was with him. And so his uncle Hamza, at a certain point, pleaded with him. And look what they're doing to us. They're raping our women. They're taking our belongings. They're persecuting us. We have to retaliate. We have to do something back. But the Prophet's heart would not allow him to make such a decision to do harm to the Banu Hashim, his own tribe, and other clans that were against him. He waited on Allah, but Allah heard Hamza. So thus, Fight with those who fight with you and be not the aggressor. Now here's the point in this, dear Muslims. Allah heard Hamza. May Allah's mercy be on him. But he didn't reveal the answer to Hamza. He revealed it to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because through him is the command. Through him is the revelation. And through him is the example of how to carry out what is being revealed to him. So though it's your cry, I still have to reveal it through him. Because if I gave you the command on your own, Hamza was already a warrior. He probably would have killed a whole bunch of people that he might have thought was an enemy and wasn't an enemy at all. So thus, not only did Allah command the Prophet, peace and prayers be upon him, to fight with those who fought with them, he taught him how to maneuver, how to fight, and then revealed to him the rules of engagement. This is what the world is missing in their understanding of the Islam, because of how the media is really just trying to whip us into a frenzy against ourselves. But I can tell you with a smile, because the Prophet, peace be on him, said that a smile is charity. So I'm going to give you some charity right now. Let me tell you without a shadow of a doubt, they will not be successful. How could we read in the Quran when Allah Most High tells us that he's going to make Islam prevail over all the other religions, though the polytheists may be averse? We know that Allah can't lie. So when we start looking at France and the population of Muslims in France, the population of Islam in the UK, the population in Finland and Sweden of Muslims growing, that's not just growing just because, that's growing because Allah's will cannot be frustrated. So no matter how much they try, you can't stop it. You can't stop it, because the source from which it's coming from and the source from which it was revealed, there is no end to it. And they hope that one day they will be successful in getting the whole ummah of Muhammad, peace be on him, to fight each other like they have some of us fighting each other in the Muslim world unjustly. You can't have an AK-47 on one side and then on the other side, and because of school of thought and over lineage, we mow each other down and say, oh, we're all Muslims. That's not the sunnah or the practice of Muhammad. Peace and prayers be upon him. That's a corruption that has come in. And as a result of that, many beautiful Muslims have died in that unjust situation. So let me end the first part of this khutbah going back to understanding that Allah does not give us faith without action. And when we see these attributes coming together, it is always kind of like this. It's like Allah wants to give us the gift, and he sits the gift in front of us and says it's yours. However, before you open that, you must do this. You have to do this. You want my mercy? You can have it. It's all yours. You want my forgiveness? Somehow go forward. You want it? It's all yours. However, you must repent. You have to do something first. See? So when we see these attributes, dear Muslims, he's Al-Aziz and Al-Hakim. So he's the mighty and the wise, right? So, however, he's not executing might without wisdom, where we like to execute authority and might without wisdom. So we learn, if we had good teachers that know how to rear children, they tell us, don't ever beat your children when you're angry. Some of us are still suffering from them kind of beatings. When somebody punished us, maybe we deserved it, but don't beat your children when you're angry, because you'll be unjust. We normally will go too far because we're really disciplining them out of anger that is not regulated by knowledge that says, maybe I can talk to them first. And let's see how they respond to the strong rebuke with words before I resort to my hand or to a belt or to a switch or to an extension cord or a frying pan or shoes. Your brother in Benson, look at my man, he said, I ain't never experienced alhamdulillah. But some of us have. So remember, dear family, that Allah is with those who are steadfast. Allah loves those who are steadfast. May Allah bless us and guide us, and may He protect and grant blessings upon the Ummah of Muhammad. And may Allah bless each and every one of the believers wherever they are on the planet to remain steadfast. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidina Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Dear believers, the Prophet, peace and prayers be upon him, was always giving guidance and direction. And you would think that as much as the people bothered him, I'm using that term, bothered, that at some point we may ask the question, man, did he ever get tired? People, like he would answer something, we come back in another way and ask it in another kind of way. Did he ever get tired? And in the human side, he may have. But what was holding him up through all of that was the fact that Allah had chosen a man whose heart was so pure that beneficence and mercy, that Rahman and Rahim, was flowing from his heart to humanity. And so a man came to him and asked the Prophet, advise me on what I should do. And the Prophet told him, say, I believe, and then be steadfast. Remember what I said earlier? That when we're going through problems and trials and we go to our brother or sister for guidance and we lay it all out about how rough it is, and we're looking for them to hit us with the hadith and ayah of the Quran and really break it down, and they just give us simplistic guidance. Seek refuge in Allah. Or be steadfast. Do you believe, brother or sister? Yeah. Well, then be steadfast. That's not enough for us sometimes, but it really is. Because the remembrance of Allah is the greatest of all forces. How many of us, if we took the poll, though I could probably give the answer if we believe, and even if we don't, you're going to get to that point or been to that point, but I'm dealing with the believers. How many of us in this life have gotten to the point where all we could do is yell, scream Allah's name? That it gets to the point that all you can do, Ya Allah, oh Allah. And in that moment, the way that we passionately scream and call His name, we're relieved of the burden just like that. Just with calling His name, we feel lighter. As they say, sometimes you just got to let it out. But I found myself in situations like that. Because you know what happens, dear Muslims? We keep trying it our way. We keep trying to do what Carlos wanted to do. I'm going to do this our way. And it doesn't work. And Allah brings us right back. Oh, and there's the relief. And here comes the item. Here comes the knowledge through study, through understanding, and now apply it. So the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, also said to this man, you have to be steadfast to the degree that you cannot be uprooted. Because the man came right back and said, people say that all the time. People say believe in Allah. Do you know one of the most frightening ayah in the Quran is that there are those who say they believe in Allah in the last day and don't? You say, how is that frightening? How is that one of the most frightening ayah in the Quran? How is that? Because we never know, and we really should not spend too much time on it, because Allah knows best that when we are congregated in whatever we're doing as Muslims, everyone that is among us does not believe. They don't. And that's a frightening thing, because we have the kind of heart that is developing through the revelation of this Quran, that it is the type of heart we're trying to pattern after the heart of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And because we want everybody to feel the way that we do, the moment if we could learn that they don't, that's a frightening thing. You mean to tell me you don't have no faith? You're not firm in it? No, I don't believe in it at all. I just came among you. And when I get back among my devils, I say, oh, I was only playing. I was only mocking. I really wasn't into that. But yeah, you went through all of the positions of the Salah. Why does Allah allow these kind of people to be among us? To find out what kind of person we are. Remember I asked the question, who are we that Allah cannot try, as I close this? We say our prayers, our sacrifice, our lives and our death, all for Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. That's what we say. And if we say it sincerely and we mean it and we believe that to be the truth, then doesn't Allah have a right to see whether or not that's real? Doesn't He have a right to say, oh, let me test you on that? Do men think they will be left alone on saying they believe and not be tried? You strong? Let's see how strong. And when we make it through that trial, we come out stronger. But we also come out tender too. What do you mean? How can you come out strong and tender at the same time? Because of the blessing that Allah blessed us to come through that trial to be stronger, then we'll have mercy on that believer when we see them going through, and be able to give them the kind of guidance and comfort that they need to make it through. That is the blessing of being steadfast. Because as I leave you, some that I look at, you've lived a little while now. And we pray to Allah that our young children grow old, and that all of us are protected and preserved and grow in old age in this Islam. But many of us know Muslims that started out on this journey with us, and they're not here anymore to whatever reasoning that they're not. Some return to Allah. But as you get older, as I leave you, I'm going to give you a personal note. I'm blessed to still have my grandmother who raised me. She's 85 years old. May Allah protect and preserve her. But you know how when you go visit, and I can start to see the signs, the things are not in place like they normally are. And then in the conversation, she'll come right back around 10 minutes later as if I never said this or said that. And that's like, whoa, time now. You got to pack your things up and you got to come on to my house with my family, because I can't leave you there to take care of yourself now, because you're starting to show signs. One of the things that I find with that is every time I go over there, she's telling me about someone who has passed away. No, so-and-so passed away. So-and-so passed away. And it got to the point where she said it, and you may have heard elders say this, I'm the last one left. I'm the last one left. My siblings are gone. All my friends I went to high school with and hung out with, all the people I worked with and retired with, everybody's passed away. So what's my point in that? Well, it starts getting lonely. Because all your circle is gone. But Allah has protected and preserved you, and you still there. But that's when it starts getting to you that it's coming near you now. Because everything around you is gone. But the one thing I try to remind her in the best way is that Allah is He who remains forever. And I said to her, I said, Allah can take your body and bring it back to Himself because He owns it. And He owns the life that we born. I said, but the beauty of Allah is that you can return to Him, but you're still here. And I can return, and my children are still here. Now, and I'm a granddaddy now, so it just keeps on. It just keeps going, and it keeps going, and it keeps going. And that's why Muslims are those who the enemy is afraid of, because the way we view death is that we know it's inevitable. It's going to happen. But I gave you that so that you would understand that feel blessed when you are in your Islam with brothers and sisters who have been soldiering with you for a long time. And so no matter how many years have gone by, when you come to JUMMAH or when you go to a function of the Muslims and you see your brother who has been in this with you or may have been there before you, but you're still there, it's a joy in that, because there are many that are gone now. But the one good thing about Islam is that it keeps refreshing itself. And so we can go, but there will always be another group coming up. And Allah made it that way. And one day, we're going to see the real meaning of what it is that we accepted, even though sometimes it may look like the shaitan is getting the best of us. Well, he won't get the best, he'll get the worst, who have rejected faith. But those of us that remain steadfast, they're Muslims. May Allah bless all of us to enter into paradise. So may Allah bless us, may Allah guide us, may Allah protect us. May He protect the companions of Muhammad. May He grant all of them Jannah. Many He said would. May He grant the entire Ummah of Muhammad safety in this hour in which the shaitan is attempting to strike a mighty blow towards us. Thank you, dear Muslims. Assalamu alaikum.